Follow me and I will guide your way home. That's a great song that is sung nowadays, and I love it. I listen to it often, but today's topic is on guidance. Many times we think we should know everything. When we set out on a path, we try to map out every little detail. I am one of those that has a strategic nature. So for me, especially, I can roll with the punches, but I'm always looking further down the road. If we're getting off track here, how do we get the train back on the track so that I know where we're going? And I take a lot of that weight on myself. I've done StrengthFinders. I don't know how many of you are familiar with StrengthFinders, but StrengthFinders helps you identify your top 5 strengths that you can operate in. And there's a list of like 34 strengths. And my number 1 strength is adaptability. My number 2 is strategic, then individualization, self-assurance, and responsibility. So for me, how that operates is as we roll with the punches, I'm already looking down the road to see where things got off track and how to get them back on track. I know that people are involved in what we're doing, so I want to make sure that we don't lose anybody in the process. I am confident that we can get everything back in order without losing anyone or many. And then my responsibility side is I will kill you, me, and anybody else that gets in the way of us accomplishing our goal, right? So for me, that's how I operate. The bad side of that is I'm always looking at how I'm going to operate, and I don't really always stop to seek guidance. I don't always stop to ask God, is this the path that you want us on? Or was the direction of the derailed train the way you wanted us to go, right? It may have looked derailed to us, but maybe he's just forging a new path. So today's verse is Psalm 32:8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. So what he's saying here is he is counseling us. He is there for us. He is watching us. We are not out from underneath his view. We are not out from underneath his instruction, his wisdom, his guidance. And by doing that, we also realize that we can't run and hide from him, right? So we can't run and hide. We can't, let me see. I'm not trying to say it in confusion, but I'm trying to say it. He comes in whispers. Sometimes with me, it's more like taking a 2x4 upside a donkey's head, wham, get my attention. But most of the time he's coming in whispers because he's wanting you to lean in and to listen to him. So, maybe you have a new thing coming down the pipe. I recently had a friend, she lost her job. I have another one whose kids her last one's about to graduate from high school. She's feeling the unsteadiness of empty nester syndrome and what's going to happen with her then. There's a lot that can happen that makes your footing. Oh yeah, that was a good one. Footing feel unsure. And so that's when you lean into him. That's when you seek the guidance that he has for you. And then tuning into God's direction in this season. One of the things that I have to do is I have to kind of get things quiet for at least a part of the day, whether it's out on a walk or sitting quietly, and I'll put away the computer, I'll put away the phone, I'll turn off the TV, and I will just sit and listen. One of my favorite places to do that is here in the DFW area is Founders Plaza, right there by DFW Airport. At the north end of the airport, there is a place where you can watch the planes land. For me, that is peaceful and calming. My number one spot is to get by a lake and put my feet in the water and just enjoy peaceful water, calming, all of that. But that being an airplane buff, being somebody that loves airplanes, the airport does that for me too. And it's just calming myself, putting myself in a place that I'm ready to receive the guidance he's giving me, and then opening up for that. And then what does it mean to trust his timing as much as his guidance? Well, let's talk about Moses for a moment. Moses took all the Egyptians out of Egypt. All the Israelites out of Egypt, and he took off. And he had cloud and fire leading him along the way. That was his guidance. That was God guiding him, right? But there were some hard left turns during all of that. There were 40 years of hard left turns wandering in the desert until they found what was going on with what the promised land was, until they found the land of milk and honey, until they found what God wanted them to do. So that 40 years in the desert may have seemed like they were off track, but there were hard lessons they were learning in the process that they wouldn't have been ready to enter the promised land until they had gone through those 40 years. So maybe this season you're in, this tough season you're in right now, isn't so much a derailment as it is a detour. Detours are a better phrase of using things than derailment, right? Derailment means you lost control, you're all that. Here's the thing, God never loses control. God's always in control. So it's a detour, not a derailment. So think about other people in the Bible that have used guidance. When they went to take Jericho, they used the guidance of the scouts to find Rahab, and Rahab hanging out the red cloth so that everybody that was in her home was saved. What about Gideon taking the lamb's cloth and putting it out? Keep it dry, but all the ground around it wet, and I'll know you're God. Okay, well, that could have been a fluke. Okay, keep the ground dry, but make the sheep's cloth wet, because maybe you do want me to do this. And then let's think about Jonah. Jonah tried to derail his life, and God gave him a detour through a well, right? So there are things in our lives that may look like they were a derailment at times, but really they may have just been setting you up for a bigger and better calling on your life. But you won't know that unless you're seeking in and talking with God to find out what God is saying to you. So again, our Bible verse today is Psalm 32:8. It says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. So let's see, over 20 years ago, my husband and I were having some marital problems. And I had a bunch of well-meaning, loving people coming up and giving me advice. But when I asked them to tell me where they found that in the Bible, many of them could not tell me where they found that in the Bible, right? They just could not tell me. So I started telling everybody, unless it's a Bible verse, scripture, I don't want to hear it, because I need to go and hear what God is saying to me. I don't need that filtered through your voice. And it really turned some people off, because quite honestly, I've done it before too. They thought they were the greatest wisdom that I could tap into, was their wisdom, because they had this interpretation of God's word. But what I felt God was telling me in that moment is, strip away all the fluff and just be with me. And that's really what guidance is all about. It's stripping away all that fluff and just being with God in that moment, finding out where he's wanting to take you. He meets you where you're at, and then he wants to take you on a deeper journey, a further journey with him. And it may look like the train has gone off the rails at times. I will tell you that. It may look like that. But to be quite honest, he's in control the whole time. He can drive that train in the dirt if he wants to, because he is in control. All you have to do is just accept it and know that he is guiding you in a loving fashion towards where you want to go, whether you know you want to go there or not, right? Because he knows the deep desires of your heart. He knows the things you're weeping for in the silence. He knows all of that. And he's trying to find ways to sharpen you so that you're prepared to step into the season you're dreaming of, right? So I used to do some work with a lot of single women, and especially military veteran women. I'd still do work with them, but they would say, I'm just waiting for my king to come. I said, well, are you sure you're suited for the job yet? Girl, I'm a princess. I said, yeah, but a princess doesn't marry a king. A queen marries a king. So when you're on that journey for whatever it is you're looking for, you need to be prepared that if that's what you're wanting, God's got a lot of fine tuning to do on you before you can step into that role. And speaking as somebody that has actually gone through that, I know that is 100% true. There has been times that he'll go, nope, we're not doing it that way. And hard left. Here we go. We're taking a hard left turn. So today I want you to ask yourself, where do you feel unsure of your next steps? How can you tune into God's direction in this season? And what does it mean to trust his timing as much as his guidance? When you can answer those questions, you are setting yourself up for so much exponential growth in your life with God and with the goals that you're setting for yourself. You are virtually unstoppable when you can tap into these 3 challenge questions. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about wisdom. And believe it or not, it's not a verse out of Kings. It's not a verse about Solomon we're talking about in here, but it is a verse about wisdom. And so I hope you will come back tomorrow and tune in and be ready to join us for talk about wisdom. See you tomorrow. Bye.